every limitation is an invitation. And so if you see a limitation and you're like, oh, fuck me, I can't do anything about it, you're gonna find yourself killing your desire that lies on the other side, because you're not supposed to go through the limitation. There's plenty of doors. This particular live stream is more about sharing my personal financial intimacy journey and what my financial intimacy practice looks like. If we haven't met, hi, I'm Stefania, and I serve reverence and responsibility through a practice called financial intimacy. Traditionally, financial intimacy is the conversation that exists between partners, but the way that I teach it is that it's the conversation that exists within yourself around your time, money, and energy. Now, to be financially intimate means to be radically honest about the way that you use your resources and why you use them the way that you do. What that also means is that you have to look at some really brutal truths of your past and your present that are impacting your future. Today, I got really pissed off and I got really activated. And rather than just like blindly going into red rage, I was like, okay, hold on. To give you some background, I have a cottage property in British Columbia. I currently live in Montreal, Quebec, so I'm not able to manage the renovations that are happening. And the renovations are absolutely necessary, right? So if you've been around a while, you know that during the pandemic, I lived there for 2 years without running water, with like a non-flushing toilet, right? It was pretty off the grid. It was a pretty rough kind of living. Having said that, one of the things that I was really committed to was that A, I'm never going to sell this property. So B, I want to improve it and get it updated so that I can rent it out or have it as a vacation home and not have it feel like this thing that I have to suffer through when I'm there. So when I left for Montreal, there was this negotiation that I made with my dad where he would be coordinating a lot of my renovations. Some of that, sometimes it meant that he would do them. Sometimes it meant that he would hire someone to handle it. But it's actually been extremely frustrating a lot of the way, if I'm really honest. And I didn't realize why it was getting so frustrating, but there was always this like way that him and I would like bump heads or grind against one another in the process of us getting this fucking cottage updated. I am fully aware, I'm very audacious. I have things that I want and I want them, and like I will do what it takes to have the things that I truly desire in my life. Now, because I'm clear I'm not selling this property, there's also things that I just wanted to have, right? I wanted to have brand new windows. I wanted to have an updated bathroom. I wanted to have a great kitchen. I wanted to have open concept. I wanted to have doors moved. And I have done stuff to this house that my parents thought I was insane for doing. Like literally, we moved doors because I was like, I don't like where that door is located. Let's move it. And every time I said that I would want something shifted in this house, I was always met with this wall where my dad would say something to the effect of, do you know how much that's going to cost you? Do you know how expensive that is? This doesn't come cheap, you know. And every time he would say that, I could feel this like bubble of rage inside of me get really upset and like really fucking mad. And I was just like, wow, like this is so annoying. And you can recall, if you've been around for a while, I used to do live streams on how when someone says, that's expensive, it's a projection, right? If I were to tell you that's expensive, it's usually the way that I've processed information, and I'm trying to make it the way that you process information, even though I have no rhyme or reason to actually do that, okay? So I'm aware of this. I'm fully knowledgeable that when someone says that's expensive, do you understand how much that costs or whatever, it's always a projection. It's an internal projection onward to you because it's activated, right? Ugh. Well, this morning I came across this visual of this house and I was like, oh, that's actually the look that I'm going for, because in the house in BC, I've already updated the windows, I've already moved the doors, and now we're putting on brand new insulation on the outside, and I was going to do brand new siding as well. And I was trying to explain the visual to my dad of like what I'm looking for, because if it was up to my parents, they would just do something simple. And I'm like, no, like I want a particular thing. And so I came across this image today, and this image was like of this beautiful home, and it had black siding with black windows and red fir balcony. And I was like, oh my God, that's it. That's the vision that I've had in my head that I didn't know how to articulate. So I tagged my dad in it, and I was like, this is what I'm looking at, but rather than the black windows and the black doors, I want the white windows with the white doors, but the rest is all there. And then there was like random people replying, and they're like, oh, that'll look so beautiful, it'll be so vibrant. And then my dad replied, and he was like, sure thing, but fur ain't cheap. And when he said it, I just like let it hit me and sink. And I paid attention to the way that I wanted to respond to that, right? My initial response wanted to be like, are you fucking kidding me? My second response was demotivating. I was like, for fuck's sakes. Like there was no inspiration. Like it literally felt like someone deflated me. And then so I just replied, I was like, one step at a time. This kind of spun me out for a couple minutes. And then I was taking Roxy out for a walk and I was like, why can't I let this go? You know, I already responded to him. It was fine. Why am I still fucked up about it? And so as I'm walking Roxy, there was this moment where I was like, oh, fuck. See, my entire upbringing, I've had to hear the sentences, not right now, Steph. We can't afford it. That's expensive. That doesn't come cheap, as reasons for why we didn't have certain things. I didn't have a family vacation until we had one weekend camping when I was 16, right? Because we couldn't afford it. That's expensive. Vacations don't come cheap. When it came to getting new clothes, we couldn't go to like top of the line stores or even regular stores. We were always going to liquidation stores that, you know, my mom worked at because they were cheap clothes. Yeah, sure, they're like a couple seasons old or whatever, but like we had to go find the cheapest option for everything because clothes don't come cheap. And then also I remember even growing up feeling embarrassed that I was getting bigger because, you know, that's what women do as we age, because oh shit, my parents have to replace the clothes that I no longer fit. There was always this like hyper focus on money. And that's why when I turned 14, I was like, okay, I'm gonna get a job. And I couldn't legally work at 14, right? So on my 15th birthday, I got hired before my 15th birthday, but on my 15th birthday was my legal start date. Because I was like eager, I don't want to deal with this. I don't want to have to constantly shut things down in my life that I need, right? New clothes, rest time, whatever, because of money. So I'm going to go out and I'm going to make my own. So I did that. But that relationship to hearing that's expensive, that's too much, do you know how much that'll cost, always implied that the money would be better spent or better allocated somewhere else. The problem being is that I still have that orientation when I hear that sentence. That when I hear the sentence, do you know how expensive that is? Or do you know what that costs? The reason why I deflate on the back end is because I have the wiring still that says if something's expensive or if something costs something, then money's better spent somewhere else. That money is always better spent anywhere other than the place that you desire for it to go. And when I was younger, right, when I was a kid, it was appropriate because my parents' income was limited. And so it didn't make sense to just buy your daughter whatever the fuck she wanted. It was like, Steph, we can't afford that. Like, do you understand how expensive this is? Like, this is really out of range. And like, we don't have the money for that. Or like, I understand you want a new Lululemon sweater, but like, we really don't have the resources to allocate to designer brands. Like, it was very true as a kid. But the reason why it grinds now is because as an adult, I'm not on my parents' budget. I'm not asking for a slice of their financial pie. I'm the baker, right? That's why I'm self-employed. That's why I'm at sovereignty when it comes to my income. So when I hear the sentence, do you know how expensive that is? Do you understand how much that costs? My brain comes in and is like, one, do you think I'm fucking stupid? Right? It's like, how fucking dare you? Like, I'm intelligent, I'm bright, I do my research, I fully understand shit costs things. This is welcome to 2023, almost 2024. Money has always been a part of the equation. That's never not been a part of the conversation. But the thing that I'm pointing to right now is my desire. The money isn't the issue yet. The issue is that we're not on the same page about my desire. And I want to make sure you're there, that you see the intention, that you see the vision of what needs to unfold. And so the grinding, as I was walking Roxy, I was like, oh, for fuck's sake. One, this isn't his money. And so when he says something about how I'm allocating my money, I internalize it. Like the things that I'm applying my money to are wrong or bad or whatever the case is. Now, if I allow myself to fall down that mental cycle, I become the 15-year-old version of me who then goes, well, fuck. If I can't have it, then I might as well kill it. Meaning, when you're a teenager, you are limited for the amount of money you can make too. When you're younger than that, when you're not working, you're limited to how much money your parents will provide you for the things that you desire. There's a natural limitation there. And so when you grow up with the orientation of that costs too much, there's better things to put your money towards, then when a desire comes up, not only will you not respond to the desire, you'll abandon it entirely. Now, when I really look at my entire life, I look at all of the desires that I've seen, I felt, and I don't even let blossom open because the immediate thought is that costs money. But here's the thing, of course it does. That's not the problem. Money is the scapegoat at that point, because who would you become if you truly let that desire open and said, okay, that's the thing that I want to do. How do I want to do it? How do I want to create the resources to have that thing? And so reading my dad's comment, what totally hit me was this demotivating factor where it was like, fuck, I don't want Like, I don't want to hustle and grind to have this thing. I just want to talk about it. I want to expand on the desire. I want to look at how is that possible. I want to get creative about my solutions. I want to feel empowered. I want to feel vibrant. I want to feel expansive when it comes to the things that I want. What I don't want to do is show all my fucking limitations, because those limitations are always the invitation for me to come home to myself. The limitations are bullshit for the most part, right? So to tell me something costs money, no shit, Sherlock, of course it does. But to not say, what do you really love about this? What gets you excited? Okay, cool. How do we make that happen? What's the first step? And that's part of the reason why I replied to my dad and I was like, baby steps. Because there's times where he's done this very well, right? When he's backed my desire in a very exciting way. And then sometimes he takes it too far, right? So to give you an example, a couple of years ago, I told him, I was like, I'll know that I've made it in my life when I have a lake home, when I just have lakefront property. Like a beautiful home on lakefront property with a dock, like I will know I've made it. You know what my dad went and did? He went and found 5 properties that have lakes on them. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing? And he's like, well, you said you know you made it if you had lakefront property. These ones are actually really doable for you to get now. And I was like, I don't want it right now though. Like there was this distortion of like, when you have a desire, you got to have it now. That's never it. When you have a desire, you want it to open. But part of what we do is we have these desires, and rather than letting them open, we use money as a scapegoat as to why we should shut it down, or we pump ourselves to have that thing be present when it hasn't even opened fully, right? And so even in this desire around what I want for this house, I'm not even fully open to it. I'm not fully in the creationary thought of it. I'm not fully into the expansive energy of it. I'm trying to get my dad's backing and his energy so that I can feel right about having the desire. Why? Because my entire upbringing, I didn't feel right about having desires. Because my entire upbringing said, when you have a desire, you either have to A, deny it because there's no money for it, or B, hustle for it because no one else will get it for you. And so these orientations that originated in my teen years are still alive and well if I don't check in with them, okay? So now I'm in this position where I'm like, wait a minute. You're not in control of my money. I am. I make good money, but also I'm a self-employed entrepreneur. My money is not limited. Like I can make more quite easily, right? Like all I got to do is make an offer. All I got to do is invite people to work with me. All I got to do is speak to the desires that other people have. All I have to do is open and support the desires of the people that want to be served. That's really all I have to do. And so when someone projects onto me that there is a limitation, and it's like, whoa, keep your limitations to yourself, because that's not my limitation. Making money is not my limitation. Spending money is not my limitation. My limitations are radically different than someone who doesn't work for themselves, someone who's scared of increasing their rate, someone who is not fully responsible for what their life costs. Now keep in mind, I'm aware that renovating a 100-year-old cottage is going to cost me something. And simultaneously, I'm also aware that I'm not willing to sacrifice myself to do said. So what does that mean? That means that I do one thing at a time. Last year, my focus was the windows. This year, the siding needs to be done. I mean, I wanted the siding done last year, but I was not in control of the timeline, right? So this year, it's like, okay, the siding needs to be done. And then once the siding's done, my house insurance will go down and I'll have more money to play with because my house insurance is like $4,000 a year. Okay, it's astronomical. And then after that, it's like, okay, now I got to get a new roof. I've got to get the water flowing. I've got to do all these other things. But because the orientation to desire is smother it because there's no money, or pump it because we want to have it now, there's no letting it open. There's no allowing it to evolve. Because generally speaking, when we allow ourselves to let desire expand and just sit in it, other things come in, right? Like even when I was sitting with the desire to move east, the desire was to move to Boston, right? Like that's the thing that I would really love. But then what came in when I was sitting with it was like, oh, I just need to move east. Let's start with moving east. It's baby steps. It's like step number 1, just move east, get stable in living in East Coast in terms of my time, money, and energy. That's also time zone wise, right? Like just really stabilize on the East Coast and then grow and expand so that I can financially support myself in Boston. To be able to move East Coast into Boston would be way too much on my nervous system. And so I sat with the desire. I let the baby steps come in. Already, when I showed my dad that image of like how I want the house to look, his focus was on the fir, right? The fir, it's a tree, if you're unfamiliar, and how much the fir would cost. So I was like, dude, I'm just showing you the fucking siding. The fur is like, I can just paint the wood that's there right now. Like we don't need to worry about that. We can, that's the extra. Like that's the cherry on the top, you know? We got to worry about the cake. I'm just showing you what the vision is so that you keep the vision in mind, that the choices that you make in the process of what we're doing together doesn't dismiss the vision, doesn't kill the desire, that the desire is still the thing that we're tending to. We're just doing it in ways that are sustainable. But when we use money as the scapegoat to kill it, because that's too expensive, that costs money, what we do is we actually remove our participation in what needs to take place. And I could feel it this morning. It was so fucking deflating. It was this essence of, oh, now there's another thing to address, when that thing was always going to be there, right? It was always going to be the thing that I needed to put my attention on, but not from a place of disempowerment, not from a place of lack of sovereignty. It's just like another thing. It's like brushing my teeth, you know? Oh, it's going to cost 10 grand. Okay, cool. How do I make 10 grand? Figure it out. I'm self-employed. I have that opportunity to do that. Now, if I wasn't self-employed, that might be an appropriate conversation. But even then, I would debate that it's not, because if you're not self-employed and you know that you have an expense coming to back your life in whatever way, whether it's a vacation, whether it's house insurance, whether it's Christmas shopping, it doesn't really fucking matter. When you know that there is an expense and that there's money associated to it, and you receive that reality fully, it is very impossible to not respond to it in a way that is deeply respectful. So for example, if it's January and you're like, I know that this Christmas I want to buy my parents a vacation, you're not going to wait till November to look at the prices of that vacation. You're not going to wait till November to put money aside for that vacation. You're not going to wait till November to start doing things about it. You're going to do it as soon as you receive the reality of that's the thing that you want to take care of, that's the desire that's opening. You're going to start tending to that desire now. And then all of a sudden it goes from being a vacation for your parents to a cruise for your parents. And not only just a cruise, but a 28-day cruise around the fucking Antarctic, right? In the process of you tending to the general desire, the desire gets clarified. But it doesn't get clarified without your action, without your participation in it. And so what better way to kill the desire than to say that you don't have the money, to disempower you, to disconnect you from tending to that desire so it can clarify itself. See what I'm saying? And so this is one of the things that we're going to be talking inside of the piggy bank as well. It's like, I'm very aware that in my own practice, this is one of the things that shows up with my inner teen, because she's just like, well, fuck, I can't have the things that I want, so I have to settle. But I don't want to create anything from a place of settling, right? Like I'm not really excited about it. I'm not enlivened about it. There's no vitality flowing through me. And one of the things that I tell people inside of bank membership, which is my membership community, is that you've got to follow where the vitality is. If there's no vitality there, it kind of stifles it. And so when you're focused on that's expensive, it costs money, you're trying to cut it where the vitality was. You are interfering with the energy flow. You are blocking it. And so in that moment, from the conversation or from the very brief Facebook comment exchange that with my dad, I really got clear that one, how I'm motivated as a person is very different than how my dad believes that I should be motivated. In fact, how he believes he's motivating me is by telling me things cost money. He thinks that that's going to be like, okay, let's get this done. When the truth is it actually does the opposite. There's like no part of me that's really interested in being like, okay, because of the wiring I have rooted in my adolescent years, that when there's something that costs money, it means put the desire away and kill it. So even though he thinks he's motivating me, it's doing the exact opposite because of the circumstances I was raised in, you see? So one of our oldest money wounds are the ones that we have to keep tending to. And so this morning when I saw the exchange, I was like, oh shit, I gotta get into my practice. I gotta really look at this right now. And that's ultimately what financial intimacy is. It's your ability to really get clear about like what is actually happening in your world and in your internal world as it relates to the external world, so that you can better allocate your time, money, and energy. Had I not really looked at this and been like, okay, why does this bother me? Why did he say that? And what's the truth of what I need? I could have been spinning out all day and I would have abused my energy. And one last thing that I'll say before I end today is that often when we're using money as a scapegoat to abandon or dismiss our desires, we will abuse our energy in the process. And you have to really look at it as a form of self-harm. If your energy is being put into spinning out, into being victimized, into being upset, into only identifying your limitations and never your vantage points, then you are abusing the power that you have. You are self-inflicting wounds at that point. Because you have tremendous power to address any limitation in your life, because every limitation is an invitation. And so if you see a limitation and you're like, oh, fuck me, I can't do anything about it, you're going to find yourself killing your desire that lies on the other side, because you're not supposed to go through the limitation. There's plenty of doors. There's plenty of ways to have the what you want in life. The way that you're trying to do it is limited. So find the thing that isn't, right? So I'm gonna leave you guys there. If you're interested in coming to the piggy bank, send me a message or comment the word coin below, and I will send you a free masterclass called Burn Book to Bank Book, so you can really understand how your inner teen is like fucking with your money, and kind of at the deepest level, the creator of the oldest money wounds that you have. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to click subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. And if you want to dive deep into this kind of self-discovery that directly impacts your wallet, head to financiallyintimate.com to learn all about my courses and experiences. Building financial intimacy is about discovering the truth of who you are so you can have the wealth you desire without sacrificing yourself for it.